All right, thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting today on July 23rd at 6 p.m. First order of business is do roll call. Start with Jared Holter. Here. Jan Brock.
Present.
Eric Archer is excused, absent. Bill Lethan.
Here.
Tom Smith.
I'm here.
One time I did virtual. I had a hard time getting my mic to work.
Can you guys hear me?
I'll come back to Tom. Mike Milkey present, and then Mayor Kim Smith is excused, absent as well. So we'll just wait for Tom quick. Oh, and Eric Archer, excused, absent as well. Okay.
I'm here. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Do you want me to wait for him? Okay.
You can hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Item 2 is a consideration of minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll move for approval of previous meeting minutes.
Second. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve by Bill and a second by Jared. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimous. On to item 3, this will be public input. If anyone would like to address the Plan Commission this evening, please state your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes per individual. Would anyone like to approach this evening?
There will
Second.
also be the public hearings too. That'll be
Yeah,
separate.
sorry. Yeah, we'll have 2 opportunities for public hearings as well. Second, for addressing the Plan Commission. Third and final call for addressing the Plan Commission. We'll close that out. Next thing we're going to do is move on to the consideration and possible action on the following items. For item 4, public hearing for plan unit development amendment application to amend the Savannah Oaks PUD to allow for the construction of 7 detached single-family residences located at 950 Green Coulee Road, tax parcel ID number 18-6075-0. Applicants are Scenic Valley Properties LLC and Terry Davis. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this PUD? Second call. Third and final call. That item is closed. Would anyone like to speak against this? Please come on up, state your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joel Stark. Members of the Plan Commission, it's an honor to be here. And I live at 2371 Cobblestone Cove. I purchased my home in 2021. And in the spring of 2022, I found out that the earth in my backyard was sopping wet with a rising water table. The water table had caused damage to my back porch. And it left me with over $70,000 worth of mitigation construction in my backyard. So I'm quite concerned with the proposition of turning the lot in question into 7 homes for the reason being that it's an environmentally sensitive area. It's proposed directly on a wetland. From June 7th in the La Crosse Tribune, there's an article, Clearwater Farm develops living classroom wetland habitat and education space with $6,000 grant. Sherry Collis recalls that the apple orchard that once grew at Clearwater Farm in Onalaska, that was dry as a bone when I started here, Collis said. Then things changed and it became inundated with water. As residential homes and impervious structures surround the 3-acre farm, the water table rose, drainage patterns changed, and the apples trees died. I'm concerned that changing this buffer zone directly on a wetland into, from a sponge that will hold water and mitigate water, the water table rising, turning it into homes that will have watershed are going to cause damage, not just for my home, but for the 30 homes that are connected to this waterway. I think it's a serious consideration. And I've put together some numbers here. I've counted 30 homes along the waterway from where the waterway starts at Stonebridge down to Cooley Golf Bowl. I think everybody with a property adjacent to that waterway should be concerned, including the Clearwater Farm and the Cooley Golf Bowl themselves. So I would encourage you to not approve the planned construction here. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Would anyone else like to speak against the PUD? Second call. Third and final call. This item is now closed. At this time, I'd like to end public hearing on this item and hand it over to Katie Asmussen to introduce this to the Plan Commission this evening.
Thank you. Before you this evening is a planned unit development amendment to facilitate a modification to the original Savannah Oaks PUD land use map, which specified that the parcel in question have a commercial zoning district. The applicant is requesting to modify the zoning of that parcel, which is found in agenda item number 5, to allow for the construction of 7 single-family dwelling units, which are permitted in the low-medium density residential district. If approved, the applicant will return to the Plan Commission for both preliminary and final plat review to formally subdivide the parcels prior to issuance of building permits. Included in the packet are attachments that were provided by the applicant that would illustrate how the 7-lot subdivision would be laid out, as well as a cover letter. City staff had reviewed the proposed planned unit development amendment against our development and design standards. There are no requested deviations from the code. This is strictly to modify what the future land use map was, as opposed to allowing for a deviation request. So they're not looking for special setbacks, at least at this point. They're not looking for any special use. They just want to change the land use map. City staff have put together a total of 15 conditions of approval for this development.
Thank you, Katie. What is the pleasure of the Plan Commission this evening?
Well, I'll move, for purpose of discussion, I'm gonna move to approve the revision of the property from, to an R2 designation as requested with the 15 conditions.
I'll second for discussion as well. So we have a motion by Bill to approve for discussion on with the 15 conditions of approval, seconded by Mike Milkey.
Okay, the reason I voted to approve it is actually my understanding is all we're doing right now is changing the zoning. We're not actually, the process of them building these 7 units is a different event. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Katie.
So the application before you right now is to amend the planned unit development's land use map. So if you approve the land use map to go from commercial, which it is today, to allow for residential, essentially, then that is the first step that they would need. The second step would be to formally rezone it. We need the land use map to be in place first, and then you rezone to match that map. So if you approve the PUD amendment, this agenda item, and you consider the rezoning, and if you approve that, then the land would be able to be constructed into 7 different homes. And that, yes, creates additional applications. So these are kind of the first 2 steps that you would you and the Common Council would need to approve in order to facilitate this development to let it happen.
So even if we denied doing this, somebody could put commercial buildings on that land.
Yes, there is a mixed-use zoning district there today. Someone could propose any one of the allowable uses and put in parking, and if it's commercial, if it's an apartment, there's a variety of different uses that would be allowed that would not require any plan commission or common council approval. So they don't want to do commercial, they want to do residential.
Yeah. Well, as far as city inspection goes and approval of the design, which zoning sets a higher level of city input, to your opinion? Or doesn't it matter?
So of our residential, our R3 district and also our R4 district have design standards that are attached to them. But based on what it is that the developer wants to do, the most appropriate zoning district is the R2 district, our low medium density, to allow for those single family homes. But there are no architectural restraints tied to that zoning district.
Oh, sorry. Jan?
Yeah, I would always be in favor of lower density, so, reducing that is great, but Jared, could you address this water? Oh, sorry,
Oh, you're good.
I'm behind.
No, you're good. You're good. I just waiting my turn. Just to address the drainage part of this proposal. I did look up the original 2007 approved drainage and stormwater plan for this development, which is hard to believe it's been that many years vacant. But this site was originally in the original proposal designated as a commercial site. Through the process of comp plans over the years, it's gotten changed to mixed use. In the approved drainage and stormwater plan, that site was planned on having 85% impervious on it. So 85% of the water would run off that site, and actually the stormwater ponding areas were designed for that runoff. This development that's in our packet tonight, I would estimate it probably 40 to 45% impervious. So it's going to be about half of what would probably be on a commercial site. So I view this as a better development in this area for the stormwater part of that area. It is, as part of the original planning process, they did outline the actual wetland areas and they had them shown on the plat. And that's part of the reason there is such an extensive area that wasn't developed in this neighborhood, is because of those wetland areas that they identified. And those have been actually either are part of the stormwater facilities now or city owned. So I think from a stormwater perspective, this development definitely will be better than any commercial development you would see on this site.
Thank you, Jared. Anybody else? All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve. We will take a vote on that now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 4, public hearing for the plan. Item 4, sorry. On to item 5, public hearing for rezoning application to rezone a parcel of land from the mixed-use community district to low medium density residential district located at 950 Green Coulee Road to allow for the construction of 7 detached single-family residences, tax parcel number 18-6075-0. Applicant is Scenic Valley Properties LLC and Terry Davis. Anyone looking to speak in favor of this? Second call for anybody in favor. Third and final call. All right, this will be closed. Would anyone like to speak against item number 5? Second call. Third and final call. All right, this portion is now closed, and I'd like to hand this over to Katie Asmussen again to introduce to the Plan Commission, please.
Thank you. So as stated previously, the applicant is requesting to rezone the parcel in question from mixed-use community district to low medium density residential R2 to allow for the future development and construction of 7 single-family dwelling units. The property is surrounded by single-family developments and city-owned open space and wetlands. The existing zoning is mixed-use community with a planned unit development overlay. The future land use map shows that this area is slated for future environmentally sensitive residential development, which is intended for lower density, single-family development on compact lots, which this development is proposing to do. If approved, the applicant will return to the Plan Commission for preliminary and final plat review to formally subdivide the parcels. Included is the letter from the applicant and the proposed subdivision. City staff have put together a total of 9 conditions of approval for this development.
Thank you, Katie. And what would be the pleasure of the Plan Commission with this one?
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning request for 950 Greens Coulee Road with the attached 9 conditions.
I'll second. So we have a motion on the floor by Jared Holter to approve with the 9 conditions of approval, seconded by Mike Milky. Any discussion?
I have one question, which I thought, I drove over there and looked around that area quite a bit yesterday, and one of the things I noticed in the requirements was that there, for each parcel, there's a fee of $1,020 for a park. And so I drove around and looked at the park, and the park is actually a fair distance away from these 7 parcels. Is there a requirement that the builder has to put another park in?
So every new housing unit in our community pays a park fee. It's $922.21. And that goes into funds that help with the development and maintenance and care of our park facilities. Parks are generally in the areas of where the development is occurring, and that's where we put the funding. But based on this development, as long as they pay that fee, they will not be required to dedicate any land to the city for a new park. They would just be using their established services in the area.
I'm just curious, is that money set aside and then used to help maintain that? It's a beautiful park that they have there now. Is that money used to help maintain that, or?
So that money goes into a segregated fund that is just for park improvements.
Okay.
And some of the monies go into regional improvements and some go into neighborhood improvements. So typically it's not so much for maintenance, but it's for new amenities and new facilities.
Somebody's doing a nice job at that park, because it's really nice.
Anybody else with discussion? All right, the motion on the floor is to approve the 9 conditions of approval. I will take a vote now on this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimous. On to item 6. This will be the presentation by the Lakota Group on the Live Anna 2024 Comprehensive Plan and Implementation Matrix. Welcome.
Katie, you'd mentioned switching things in the agenda. Do you want to? Okay. All right. It would just be unfair to have an applicant have to fit through this, for no reason. All right. Well, thank you, members of the commission. It's awfully nice to be here. And I saw a few of you looking around the exhibits earlier. That's awesome. My name is Andy Cross. I'm a senior planner and a senior associate with the Lakota Group, and I'm joined here this evening by Hannah Bader, also a senior associate with the Lakota Group. We're a Chicago-based planning consultancy, but we do work all over the Midwest and indeed around the country. And it has been a lot of fun to work with the Onalaska community and with the city staff, and certainly Katie and the planning team to develop this plan over the last year and a half. So what I'd like to do with you this evening is kind of give you a crash course, an introduction to the Live Anna 2040 comprehensive plan. and just kind of brush through fairly quickly how we got where we are, what the plan is, what's it made, kind of how it's put together and how to use it. So here are just some of the main items we'll be covering here this evening to give you an idea. And my thought is to have Hannah and myself and I speak to you for 25, 30 minutes at most, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. So we had a wonderful team put together to work on this plan. Comprehensive plans are just that, comprehensive. They cover a lot. It's not a strategic plan that's really hyper-focused, and it's not like a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Those are focused on outdoor recreation, parks and recs and facilities. This comprehensive plan covers transportation and mobility, housing, economic development, as you'll see, a lot. So we had an absolutely awesome team put together. Specifically for mobility and transportation, we used our friends at Kimley Horn and brought in a couple of people from their Rochester, Minnesota office who brought us some additional kind of more local context than we were able to bring from our area. The planning process is, it was put together in 3 phases. And I want to give Hannah a chance to walk kind of through these and how they manifested themselves as part of the comprehensive planning process.
Yes, thank you for having us today. So I'll just go over the planning process. So we've been with you guys for about 1.5 years. And throughout our process, it was 3-phased. One thing to note is community engagement was a part of every single one of these processes. But the first phase was really about trying to understand who Onalaska is today, both from what we heard from the community, having conversations with key stakeholders and the larger community during workshops, and also doing our own assessment of the different areas of the community. And that culminated in the State of the City report. So this was kind of the guiding document that led us to some key recommendations and a full understanding of the community. So phase 2 was really visioning. So this is where we took those recommendations, saw some of the key needs and priorities in the community, and came up with a bunch of ideas of what kind of strategies, what kind of implementation we could do in the community. And we brought all of that back to the larger community with a workshop and survey. And this was an opportunity to really see how the community responded to those ideas. And it helped us solidify a list of recommendations that became a part of the comprehensive plan. So we're in phase 3 right now, which is this plan and implement, and that's really where we pulled this all into a final report and brought that to the community today. And we're going through with you guys the adoption process following this process. So I just really wanted to highlight the engagement and what's been done today. We have tried to reach out to the larger community to be a part of this process. We had a long-range planning committee who was overseeing this process to ensure that the ideas we were proposing were reflective of the community's vision. We hosted some stakeholder interviews with key stakeholders in the community. We had 3 community open houses. We just finished our last one. And with all of those, we ensured that we made an online survey so that anyone who wasn't able to attend could be a part of that process. And throughout this, we've had a project website. So this was really where we put all of the information for this process and for the project. So we were continually keeping the city updated on the research and the project updates. So after kind of having these conversations with the larger community and really what led us to where we are today with this Live On a 2040 comprehensive plan were these key community themes that we heard and that were heard throughout the process. I won't go through all of them, but I'll cover a couple, I'll highlight a few of them. We heard a lot about wanting to define downtown Onalaska, kind of finding something that makes it unique and continues to grow on what already exists there. We heard a lot about wanting enhanced mobility. We have a great trail system. We have a great bike network, and just continuing to make sure that we're strengthening those connections and expanding that system. Another huge thing we heard about is just the natural beauty in this community, and ensuring that with all recommendations, we're seeking to preserve that area, enhance it, and also give opportunities for the community to get into those spaces. There was quite a few other key community themes that led to these recommendations, but those were the ones that stood out. And what this all came into was the Live On a 2040 vision statement. So this is kind of the overarching vision that is driving the recommendations, goals, and strategies of this plan. I won't go through it all, but it is very forward thinking. So it's speaking as if it is 2040 now. and really highlighting what 2040 Onalaska looks like, including a strong downtown, looking at this connectivity through these trail systems, having some robust economic development in the community, and looking at how we can bring some more mixed use areas into the city. And from that vision and what the plan is created into are a couple of key pillars, which Andy will walk you guys through. And those key pillars were based on the conversations with the community. So this is what we saw as their common values and the things they wanted to bring forward. And from that, we created a series of goals, strategies, and actions that really become the implementation and what the city and their partners can kind of use as a guide to achieve this larger vision.
Thanks, Anna. So, do you all have some familiarity with Onalaska's current comprehensive plan? Is that, it's a document from 2016, and it's separated out into a fairly traditional format of a chapter on housing, a chapter on land use, a chapter on transportation, and so on and so on and so on. And it was really our vision to get away from that structure, because what that doesn't really appreciate is how these things interact, and to look at land use or housing in a silo apart from apart from how they interact and how Onalaska's own community culture and how people view it really play into these. And so we framed this comprehensive plan around these 5 community pillars. And these grew out of the public engagement and the survey responses and the conversations we had throughout phase 1 and even well into phase 2 as we put these together. And the first one is community. People love living in Onalaska. And so we would say, what makes it special? What makes you want to stay here? And what would you improve if you had a chance? We call it the magic wand exercise. If you were, Mayor Smith for a day, you had a magic wand to fix anything, what would it be? And people came up with really interesting ideas. But it got people thinking like, oh, I would do this. And it allows them to look at things like a planner. And so we'd melded all that into community, what makes Onalaska special to people, and, the sense of identity, what does it mean? Commerce and development, obviously, the commercial elements of Onalaska are really pivotal and essential to not only the local economy, but to people's identity of what makes the city what it is. From the commercial corridor along the interstate to Sand Lake Road, and it's kind of different commercial context. That's not Lowe's and Big Box and Target and Kohl's, very different from Highway 16, and then downtown, which is pedestrian oriented, different from Sand Lake Road. Then this big Center 90 shopping center, so there are these very different commercial contexts within one community. And how can we embrace that? And person after person after person wants downtown to be more. So how do we do that? How do we get downtown? There's been so much progress made, certainly Great River Landing, but how do we get downtown to grow more? So downtown, the other commercial corridors, and then nature and recreation, just what Hannah said, people really embrace Onalaska's location on the lake and in the bluffs, and outdoor recreation is a big part of the local culture. How can we help grow that and help foster that? The Great River Trail is right here, and how can we make that a really impactful part of the community? Connectivity, we blended that not only with transportation and mobility. There's a really strong street network in Onalaska right now. There are sidewalk gaps that inhibit pedestrian mobility. What else? So we looked at that, but we also looked at connectivity in the intergovernmental relationships with Holmen and, with La Crosse, and how can we strengthen those? And the unincorporated areas, Medaria is just right there, like a donut hole in the middle of the community. What does that mean? And is that going to change in the lifetime of this plan? No, it's not. So we didn't explore ways to annex or anything like that. That wasn't the vision. But how can we help, work around that and keep relationships and lines of communication strong? And then lastly, city services. And this is a community pillar because that means a lot to people who live here. Having a strong police and fire department and having utilities that they just never have to worry about, having a street system that's really well established. And then there's the Omni Center, we'll call it city facilities. And the community center now that's going under this, a lot of reinvestment. So city services. So that's why I hope that explains a little about where these pillars came from, because these really in our conversations, we synthesized a lot into what means a lot to Onalaska. And then we took these typical comp plan chapters and synthesized them into these. So each of these pillars are broken up into specific focus areas because they're broad. So when I talk about community, what do I mean? And, or what do we mean within the comp plan, not just Andy Cross, but what do we mean within the comp plan about why this is a community pillar? So it's got a statement right there. And again, it's not my intent to go through this really granularly. I just want to introduce you guys to this. And then Katie's going to provide you with a copy of the comprehensive plan. And we'll have a few weeks to look it over. And then we'll talk about next steps later, but the idea is to revisit it again in August at a public hearing. So that just gives you a context for tonight. You don't need to read it all, you're gonna have a chance to dig into this. But when you get your copy of it, I don't want it to be completely foreign. So focus areas for community. Focus areas for commerce and development. You can see there are a number of them. The commercial corridors, Highway 16, downtown, and then the built form and design review, how to really impact non-residential construction in Onalaska to make sure it's consistently at a high level. And then some commercial land use planning. Think about Second Street, as you go down towards Quick Trip. Does that built form really reflect the community's vision for a vibrant, mixed use, pedestrian oriented downtown? Well, there's a lot of parking lots you got to walk through, for one. And so a body of regulations is what can help shape that into the future. Come on, I'm clicking. There we go. Pillar 3 about nature and recreation. Just take a quick look at those focus areas. Again, you'll have a chance to dig into those in detail in the comprehensive plan itself. Connectivity, streets for all, routes to success. These are focus areas that talk about transportation and mobility, and then regional connectivity. And then lastly, here's the focus areas on city services. There's public utilities, public safety, and just like I said, the community facilities. And we worked very closely with Jared and the Public Works team. I worked very closely with Dan Wick and in developing these strategies because, and then the Long Range Planning Committee, of which 2 members are on the Plan Commission, Mayor and Kevin. So, yes, yeah, exactly. And then so Kevin Archer. And so we worked through all these together. And so when we talked about how can we position the Omni Center to be really vibrant and active and contributive in the future, Dan Wick was just walking down the aisle with us hand in hand, kind of developing strategies that are meaningful. So I just took 1 page from the comp plan here. So when you look at it, the structure won't come as a surprise. You can see this is one of the focus areas, commercial and industrial land use planning. And then Hannah walked you through the structure. Here's a goal for this focus area. And here are specific strategies for this goal. And here's some narrative. So the strategy actually is put into context. So it doesn't come out of the blue. So this is the only sample page, but as you look through the comp plan, I'm very proud that of the 140-page document, most of the pages are actionable strategies. This doesn't have just a lot of graphs and fluff. It has very impactful and important graphs to convey important information, but this is a very usable document and concise. It's in these little digestible bits instead of page after page of narrative. I think it's really digestible. So with that, I'd like to have Hannah come up here and talk a bit. Okay, I'll talk a bit about this. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the implementation matrix. And so you had the goals and the strategies are achieved by actions. And so this implementation matrix provides actions for each one of the strategies. I know it's a lot to read in this slide, so don't worry about it. But this implementation matrix is a tool that the city will use to inform decision-making over the next 10 years. It's a checklist. So the Plan Commission can expect to get a number of these items. Okay, we need to look at these code amendments so that ideally will be a part of the commission's work plan moving forward. And not immediately, plan's not even adopted yet. But, as we look at 2025, 2026, the commission's work plan will reflect items from this implementation matrix. And so as we look to future sort of implementation tools, I'd like to have Hannah walk you through a few things.
Yes, thank you, Andy. So one of the big important components of the comprehensive plan as well is the future land use map. And I think what you guys just experienced right now today with this zoning change you just went through is just a realization of the importance of this future land use map, how it helps to inform you guys when you're looking at changing zoning. This is a reflection of what the community aspires to see in the different areas, what types of land uses they want to see. And supporting each one of these categories is kind of a description of the character of these areas. So this is really shaping kind of the character of the community and where we want different uses to be as we look to the future. Just highlighting some of this is really looking at how we can preserve the open space in the Blufflands, how we can leverage land use to help strengthen the downtown, and how we can help preserve some of the character of these different types of housing. And also, when it comes to growth and development, one of the goals, a couple of the goals in this plan are looking at some key opportunity sites that were defined throughout this process. So we have 5 opportunity sites that we have identified. And for each one of those, we came up with a series of concepts that we tested for each one of these. And the idea is not to kind of create one sole kind of opportunity for these sites, but it's really to kind of establish a set of development principles for these areas so that as we're trying to grow the different areas, bring in new types of land use, we have a better understanding of what that might look like and also what the community wants to see in these areas. So we won't go through all 5 of them, but we did include just one quick highlight of one. This is the Mayo Clinic site. And this is kind of looking at how we can bring in different types of housing products into one of the key sites in the community and also integrate that with some neighborhood commercial and really work on creating a trail system within the community. So the idea of these opportunity sites is to define some development principles and have something for you guys to look at if you do have opportunities that arise for these different sites. And just taking a look at the comprehensive plan, we kind of talked to you guys a little bit about the structure, but this graphic here really shows how the vision statement is really what we're working towards. But there are a series of steps that we can take and you all can take to kind of see this plan to fruition. We've also included in the comprehensive plan some case studies. So these are just really helpful to see other communities and how they've implemented some of these actions and the process that they've gone through to do that. So it's a great tool to use as the city starts to look at which ones they want to prioritize and move forward, if there's comparable places that are also doing this and how they took the steps to get there. And I think this is where we leave time if you guys have any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It was great.
I just have one question is, how does the school board fit into all of this?
Yeah, they were actually one of our focus groups. We had a wonderful discussion and got a lot of important feedback from them. We talked about the student body and how enrollment is decreasing. And then how the ripple effects of the housing supply and housing availability in Onalaska is a direct contributor to that from their discussion. I'm not here to talk about scientifically, but in our discussion. And so that is one of the reasons, and we can talk about it more as much, but that's one of the reasons a lot of these opportunity sites focus on a varied style of more housing. Because Onalaska is landlocked. We don't have any more farm fields to just make more 70, 80, 120 unit subdivisions. Those days are done. But 7 or 8 story density, that doesn't resonate with Onalaska. That's not consistent with the culture here. So what is? So we had very pointed questions, discussions. We call them visual preference surveys. What kind of housing resonates with you? Well, there is a segment of the population that only wants single family housing. But also a lot of the population loved 2-unit, 4-unit and attached townhomes. So, when we look at that Mayo Clinic site, that's exactly what we showed there. Some single family lots, but also some really much more dense, smaller units, because there were wonderful senior citizens that attended our open houses who said, I don't need my 4,500 square foot house anymore, but I have nowhere to go. So another family needs this with that'll send kids to the schools. But this person was like, I have nowhere to go. So so a lot of the housing we suggested in this and some of the opportunity sites is this sort of missing middle scale. So does that answer your question? That's kind of a long-winded answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll also add that in the community facilities chapter, we kind of incorporate them as ensuring that we're partners with the school district and we're making sure all any expansion or needs that are being met with them are also addressed in there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great talks. Learn all about the choir program, big choir program. All right. So then let me conclude then with just next steps. So we'll take some final edits. There were some great ideas tonight about kind of prioritization. So we'll look at that implementation matrix and make sure that, that Katie and the staff and, Jared and his team, Dan Wick and his team all have this. Kind of here are some of the things that are important to the community as far as priorities. And we're always looking through the text and we'll be receptive to, community stakeholders about, hey, I think this, maybe the vision statement could reference this. So there's still time to edit it with the goal of getting it before you in the August 27th meeting for a public hearing to adopt the comprehensive plan. That's always a public hearing process. And it is my intent to, if possible, attend that meeting with you virtually. It's, I live over in Kenosha. It's a trek. And so, I may attend that virtually. So that's the plan right now. And then the next step will be for it to go to the Common Council at their September meeting for formal adoption, which is really, really exciting. I know Hannah and I and the Lakota team are really proud of this plan. There are required Wisconsin state growth law requirements, smart growth. And we were very careful to make sure the plan addresses those. You'll see those highlighted throughout the, out the comprehensive plan. But we're able to do that in a way that we really believe is consistent with the community pillars and addressing what needs to be addressed, but doing it in a way that resonates with Onalaska specifically and not with every other Wisconsin community that needs a comprehensive plan. So again, really excited about this plan and I really enjoyed working with the team here. All right. So with that, thank you very much, Katie. Okay.
All right, now we'll move on to item number 7. This will be the land transfer. Oh, sorry.
As stated by Andy, we are looking to do the public hearing on August 27th. So I would request that there be a motion by the Plan Commission to set a public hearing for that date. August 27th at 6 p.m.
I'll make a motion for the public hearing on August 27th.
Second. All right, we have a motion on the floor to set a meeting on August 27th at 6 p.m. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Now on to item number 7. Item number 7 is a land transfer from La Crosse County to the city of Onalaska for lands along County Trunk Highway OS and East Main Street, tax parcel number 9-108-3 and 18-3568-11. Applicants here are La Crosse County and City of Onalaska.
Jared.
Yeah, pass this over to Jared for more information. Sorry.
Thank you. East Main Street is a former County Trunk Highway OS. This roadway was taken over maintenance jurisdiction by the city of Onalaska in 1999. In your packet tonight are 2 remnant land pieces that were formed primarily as part of the 1991 reconstruction project, and they have still been in the county's name, and we're just looking to transfer those to the city's name. So there'll be no cost for the transfer. It'll be just a jurisdictional transfer of lands, so they get in the city's name. We have full maintenance authority, and we plow, maintain, chip seal, as you just saw the street right now. So looking for approval.
Thank you, Jared. As part of the Plan Commission, do we have preference? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer as described for parcel numbers 9-108-3 and 18-3568-11.
I'll second that. Oh, Jan will second that. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve. And we have a second on the floor as well by Jan. Any discussion?
Really, this is sort of just academic because we did this back in it actually happened in 91.
Yeah, the county owns the parcels from 1991, but this is just bookkeeping, cleaning things up.
Did the county want us to do this or did we find this on our own?
La Crosse County requested it. They saw it. They had a property owner in the area that was requesting some maintenance done, and they said it's on Alaska's, and they looked at found that we owned a couple of the parcels out there, so they actually requested that we take it over.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll move, the motion was to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. On to item number 8, that would be adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Jared Holter to adjourn and a second by we have a second by Bill, sorry. And looks like the time would be 7:45. All in, sorry, 6:45. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. All right, motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you.